better than this. Hi, my name's Nate, and today we're going to restore this shelving unit. Whoops. Back into a player piano. Let's go. Yeah, when I say today, I mean we're gonna start today, but I actually have no idea how long this will really take. I mean, I haven't even looked inside of it since I got it over a year ago, but we're gonna find out. It'll probably be months. Talk soon. Hi, me again. So you may be wondering, what's going on here and who do you think you are? Well, great question. It all started in 1954, more or less, when my grandfather purchased a pre-owned Packard player piano from a fellow churchgoer. He put it in the basement of his family's North Minneapolis home so he could use it to make music for neighborhood dance parties. But, like a lot of other things Grandpa bought secondhand, it was a diamond in the rough. That means it didn't work. So he put masking tape on all the bellows to tighten up the leaks in the then 30-year-old player piano. My three uncles would each take turns and pump the pedals, while the adults of the neighborhood danced and sang the songs like Dardanella and When I Take My Vacation in Heaven. Eventually, the player system gave up the ghost again, so Grandpa removed the pumping pedals and installed a vacuum cleaner motor in their place. While this put my uncles out of a job, it kept the aging player limping along. Many parties later, in the 80s, the piano was hoisted out of the basement and hauled to a lake place owned by my uncle. This is where I was introduced to the player piano, and enjoyed it with my grandparents playing songs from The Lion King and Charlie Brown, with the vacuum motor groaning in the background. It eventually fell out of service entirely, despite the masking tape and Hoover motor. Time passed on, as did my grandparents, and I began to really miss hearing the music I enjoyed with them. I decided I wanted to get that old piano playing again. I found a how-to book from an online bookseller. I think it was called Amazon, and I bought supplies and advice from a player piano shop in Minneapolis. About 250 hours later, plenty of mistakes, and a lot of learning, I had the piano playing again with the foot pedals. For the first time, I got to pump the pianos just as my uncles did when they were young. 8 years later, here I am, still working on player pianos, now for customers, as well as my own collection. Over the past 4 years, I've collected about 3 tons of player pianos. Of course, like everything else I get secondhand, they're all diamonds in the rough, and you know what that means. I purchased this piano sight unseen October of 2021. It was built in 1917 by the Hadorf Piano Company of Rockford, Illinois. That Prairie School-style quarter-sawn oak cabinet, ooh, it got me. It's the first of its kind I've seen here in the Midwest. The majority of pianos made during this era have much more plain cabinetry. It's a work of art. The player system within is an Auto Deluxe brand action. That's AUTO, no relation to me. From an operator standpoint, the Auto Deluxe has a couple additional features that aren't found on most player pianos. These extra controls allow the user to input added levels of expression into the music as the roll plays, above those of your average home player. Well, within a minute of opening this piano up for initial inspection, it was apparent that the instrument had never had any major work done to it. Strings and hardware were tarnished, felts were dirty and compacted, and bellows cloth on the player pump looked to be well over 100 years old. Seeing the piano in this condition, well, it's bittersweet. Now, the piano itself is a time capsule and so intact and unchanged from when it left the factory. But this also means I have a lot of work ahead of me to bring this thing back to life. Thankfully, I find the challenge of restoring these machines exciting. Usually, it has its moments. One of the biggest challenges restorers face nowadays is finding modern materials to replace the deteriorated original materials, especially the leather in the player unit that must be airtight for the system to function properly. This piano uses no electricity whatsoever. It operates on a vacuum or suction system, with power being supplied by the foot pumps. The margin for error for everything to work properly is pretty narrow, so making repairs that are as airtight as possible is critical. A healthy player piano should require very little effort to play, and the user should feel like they're getting more out than they're putting in. My vision for this restoration is to maintain the antique charm that the piano has developed over the past 100 years. It'll be a balancing act between preserving this character while also working to get the piano sounding and functioning its best. That's going to require replacing a lot of materials, so this will be a fine balance, and I'm sure with many compromises being made along the way. We'll find out. I used to think a proper restoration meant that everything had to shine and look like new. Well, I've come to learn that not only does this make for loads of extra work, it doesn't make the piano sound any better. And no matter how hard you try, you will never make this piano brand new. That's why I intend to perform more of a sympathetic restoration. I don't want a brand new looking piano. When someone sits down to play this piano, I hope they get a sense of its history. I don't know, like fine wine or something like that. But as an FYI, DIY, PSA, I ought to say the videos in this series are by no means intended to be a tutorial or a guide for restoring a player piano. There's just so much that has to go on behind the scenes. Measuring and documenting, sourcing materials, snacking. My intent is to share an overview of my process for bringing this piano back to life. I hope doing this not only demonstrates the passion I feel for these and the restoration that's involved to anyone who's willing to watch, but also helps build appreciation for just how intricate and impressive these pianos are. Now, I know as your presenter, that's on me. So while you may be picking up a thing or two about player pianos here and there, I know I'll be on a steep learning curve as I put these videos together for you. Let's face it, I'm a tube noob. But if you're willing to stick with me, we're in this together. If you are interested in restoring a player piano of your own, the book Rebuilding the Player Piano and Piano Tuning, Servicing, and Rebuilding, both by Art Reblitz, are must-have guides. They're invaluable tools, and I wouldn't have had success with my projects without them. There are also many helpful videos on Bruce Newman's Duo Art Organ YouTube channel. As I mentioned earlier, this one piano is just about 850 pounds of a few tons of player pianos I've collected. Actually, can we say rescued? That sounds much more exciting. But what's the future of these instruments? Within the next 7 years, yes, that's an entirely arbitrary number, but it sounds about right, I hope I possess the resources to create a sort of center or exhibition space where I can share and demonstrate these instruments in restored condition as they were intended. Right now I don't have the means to do that, so I'm choosing to focus on what's in front of me. Plenty of broken down player pianos. I feel the majority of these original instruments that were built in the teens and 20s, player pianos, Nickelodeons, photo players, have been lost to history. The bulk of those that have survived the past 100 years and have been restored to playing condition are hidden away in private collections. But I do think the majority of the overall extant player pianos are lingering as shelving units. My collection certainly represents that, at least right now. And if these instruments are to have any sort of meaningful future, they ought to be enjoyed as they were originally intended, making music. Speaking of music, well, ooh, that's a lot of parts. I sure hope I remember how this goes together. Just kidding. Now that the piano has been removed from the piano, the real work can begin. Stay tuned. If you want. No pressure.